breeders are marketers. 999 out of 1,000. I wish I was exaggerating, but I'm not. They've got lots of arguments like, oh, I'm a great breeder. I've been breeding 20 years. Well, I know people who've been married for 20 years that sucked at that. Hello, Ask the Dog Guy. I was wondering if you could help me with some advice. I was considering getting a new puppy, and I'm considering a DDR GSD East German Shepherd. I'll explain later what that is. A Cane Corso, a Rottweiler, or an Akita. I'm not a novice with guard dog breeds. I was raised around Dobermans, had an American Akita, and have a GSD German Shepherd currently. I am worried about getting an Akita now since I have cats. My last Akita I adopted at 2.5 years old, and we had a puppy, a miniature poodle, that she adopted as her own, and they got along great. But I'm not sure if that was the exception to the rule. The Cane Corso and Rottweiler are good protection breeds, as well as the DDR GSD. The GSD German Shepherd I have right now is a regular German Shepherd, and I read about the DDR, and they sound more protective. I am not a fancier with protection breeds. I'm a victim of crime that has left me with epilepsy and memory problems. So I'm not trying to be the guy with the most bragging rights. To get a better insight, I live with my mother and my nonverbal autistic brother. My mother is 63 years old and my brother is 29, soon to be 30 years old. I'm leaning towards a DDR GSD, but would really appreciate your advice. As I mentioned, I'm not a novice, but I'm not Cesar Millan or yourself. The reason I am looking at the DDR GST is if I go that way is because I'm not a fan of breeds being Americanized by being bred for looks, size, etc., and losing what the breed was meant for me. I think I see what, okay, I think what yes. So he's basically saying that quite often North American breeders get a hold of a breed and they just sort of dilute everything that's good about them. He's not wrong. All right, so breeding for purpose other than temperament and original stability, which is why the Doberman is not an option, since the European Doberman lines are hard to find, and to find a reputable breeder is very hard. I'm an American, but hate the way American breeders and the AKC destroy breeds. That is also why if I get a Rottweiler, it will be an ADRK, and I want to see pedigrees. The Cane Corso I've researched, but only met one the other day when I checked out a breeder. So any advice you have that you could give me concerning the best breed or your recommendation would be greatly appreciated. Thanks for reading, and I hope you can help me decide. Regards, Mike in the US. Mike, there's a lot more to unpack in here than you might think. I don't want to be objective about this because I think I understand where you're coming from. I mean, if you've been a victim of violent crime and had these sort of consequences, I can only imagine how you feel. But I'm going to put my curmudgeon hat on here, and I'm going to be as objective as I can. So I suppose it's a matter of perspective, but from my perspective, you're a novice. You grew up with those dogs. You were not responsible for them. So it's usually a different thing in my experience, and maybe it's different in your case, but that would be the norm. And you've owned a Akita. So, and maybe that Akita was maybe the exception to the rule or whatever. I'd have to know more about what was going on there. But an Akita is admittedly, it's not a walk in the park, generally speaking. But so I would say it's not that you don't have any experience. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that for what you're looking at here, assume that you're a novice, and obviously you are keeping your ears open and looking for guidance. So here's my first my first observation here. Do you really need this? Because I don't think you do. I mean, I'm going to provide you some guidance with if you do decide to go ahead, but for anybody that's not aware, like a DDR GST is basically German Shepherds that stem from the bloodlines from Eastern Germany, particularly from before the Iron Curtain going down, and they were bred exclusively to be high drive dogs. And I mean working dogs. And there are different variations in their bloodlines as far as degrees of prey drive and territorial drive and all sorts of things. But they're Ferraris. They are not minivans. They are they're bred to be working dogs, not pets. Now, you can have pet feelings towards your working dog. You ask any police officer who's a canine officer they have pretty strong feelings about their dogs. But they're far more a hobby, and like a significant hobby, more than just having a pet dog. So you do have to kind of look at them as, all right, I'd like to have a Ferrari, but do I have time to learn how to see how a Ferrari works and keep it in tune and keep it on the road and learn how to drive it properly and all that kind of stuff? Because it's no small thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. This is the type of dog I love. I like a high drive dog, but essentially what you're doing is you're taking on a gun with a brain. And even if you do everything right, these dogs can be quite sharp. And so you need to be on your game all the time. So as much as I really like all that kind of thing about a dog, maybe look at me. I'm getting older, and I'm not in as good shape as I used to be. And I have to think, well, as much as I'd like that kind of dog, how much is there left over of me at the end of the day to do everything that really, I got to dot my I's and cross my T's from beginning to end with a dog like this. So that's my first concern. The other is that you've got a lot of medical needs around you and even yourself. Do you really, because I don't think you need that kind of dog. What you need at best is what I call a deterrent dog. A dog that is raised correctly will definitely make you aware of anybody. Almost any breed will do this. If it's properly bred, properly raised, and imprinted and trained and all that sort of thing. But that sort of deterrent, making people aware there's a dog on the property, giving you a little bit of a warning if something unusual is happening in and around your property. So that becomes a training issue, but perhaps without the liability of having a check the windows, check the doors, check the windows, check the doors type dog in your life. So when I'm saying medical needs is, I'm just thinking, I don't know, I guess it depends where you are, but I think the likelihood of a high-end working protection dog preventing somebody who is a first responder, that there might be there to help your mom if she needed help, or your brother or yourself, that would be a concern to me, is that now I got a dog that won't anyone near you, and now you can't get the care you need. So I don't know. That's another thing that I'm a little worried about. The training commitment, again, it's not. It's nonstop. It is. You start from hopefully the breeder begins things in the right way, but you're like with house training and crate training and some of the early imprinting, and then you take that over. But it's nonstop. Like when the dogs that I've had like this, I was always aware if I said to my shepherd, "Bo, down," and he pulled one of those slow-mo lie down type things instead of a crisp pop right there, which was a golden retriever, I don't care. But for him, that would generally mean, you know what, I better tune things up here. Because if he's after something or someone, maybe I put him on him. If I recall him, I want to see grass stains in the pads of his feet, not a leisurely stroll back, looking over his shoulder and maybe going back. So it's constantly testing the training all the time. What else have I got in here? So, basically, how much is your left over at the end of the day to do all this? What I would recommend is go to locally, find out if there's a Schutzhund club. Better yet, like a ring sport club. Any of there's French ring, and there's various approaches to that. That'll give you a pretty good idea of what the dogs are capable of, and you can talk to some of the people who've achieved like the third level ring and get a sense of what their days are like day in, day out. And then you can kind of look at it from your own lifestyle perspective. Now, if I haven't dissuaded you, I will include some links in my notes here to a good article that I wish everybody would read before they ever talk to any breeder. Because breeders are marketers. 999 out of 1,000. I wish I was exaggerating, but I'm not. They've got lots of arguments like, oh, I'm a great breeder. I've been breeding 20 years. Well, I know people who've been married for 20 years that sucked at that. So I need to find a breeder that can actually provide hard evidence that that they not only can talk a talk, but they walk the walk. So it's a brief article. It's free and it's pretty good. A way for people to screen not only breeders but rescues. I could combine them both in that article. But I'm also going to recommend some of my eBooks. Particularly one on imprinting, how to socialize your dog for your puppy for everything. I would prefer you and everybody else on this planet would read that before they got a dog from a breeder, because they'll know whether the breeder started it and they'll know what they have to do and how long they have to do it in order to make sure that their dog is not fearfully, is not responding in fear. Because you've got I just wrote an article today about somebody who he has a Presa Canario, similar to the Cane Corso breed you mentioned, and he wanted to know, it's a young dog, what he could do to prevent, what did he say, development of aggression and suspiciousness or whatever. So I'm going to put a link to that article in there, because that's not what socialization does. What it does is prevent natural aggression from being triggered by fear and anxiety. Anyway, worth the free reading, and hopefully encourages you to get the socialization book, because I think that's a really good pre-read before you get a dog. What else have I got here? Jamie Jones. Oh, and I'll send a link as well to, I got a really inexpensive book on just training guidelines. If you're going to wing it yourself, which please don't do that. But if you were going to do it, it gives you a pretty good idea of the direction to go. There's another book on different dog training methods as well. And basically it tells you, stay away from this all positive nonsense. Stay away from the might is right. Like you mentioned, not being Cesar Millan. I mean, he's done a lot of very positive things. But he does subscribe a little bit more to the might is right concept. And, I find that he gets bitten a lot. And when he's not getting bitten, he's almost getting bitten. And the dogs he works with, he's putting into a triggered state, I think, before that aggression should be addressed. And so the number of bites that trainers like that typically get, they think it's normal. But my perspective is like, if you're a nurse or a doctor or a physiotherapist or a therapist, and your job is to help people, and you're getting stabbed regularly or putting them in, highly agitated states, you're doing something wrong. So that's not necessarily the answer to your prayers. So you learn a little bit about training before you dip your toe in those waters. So hopefully you found that helpful. It is there's tons of breeds that could do the job, and I think help you feel safer in your own home, and not actually be a deterrent to some of the things that may pop up in your life that hopefully are, well, I don't know how to word this. I don't want it to be, I don't want you to get attacked again. And I certainly don't want you to have medical emergencies. But I think, considering sort of the demographic you're in right now, one's more likely than the other. And I think you probably want people to be able to get to you if need be. But you have to give it some thought. So hopefully you found that helpful. And if you've got any questions, you can reach out in the comments. If you find that any of the many free resources I provide companion dog owners via the Ask the Dog Guy YouTube channel or website have informed you, saved you time, and perhaps even saved you a little money, please buy me a coffee. Alternatively, you can also become a monthly sponsor, which will go a long way to spreading the word about science and common sense in the companion dog training world. You You can find details in the notes. Many thanks.